why is President Trump saying that the press doesn't cover terror attacks enough?
Well, first, I think you're playing right into his hand. We're having a conversation right now about a broader conversation on a pause on allowing individuals to come in from 7 countries that are riddled with terrorists. In that broader conversation, you're now airing on your network the greatest hits over the last couple of years of terror attacks that have taken place, not just in America, but in Europe. So the conversation on terrorism, as it comes through you and other networks, Americans at the forefront of their mind is how dangerous terror is in their communities, and why this pause might be important, why we take a special look at who's coming in to make sure they want to be part of the American dream, they want to be peaceful, and they don't want to do an American's harm.
You make such a good point, Congressman. So in other words, we are taking the bait.
You are. Well done. I mean, you're driving the conversation. I mean, and again, reminding everybody.
So in other words, this was put out by the president as a red herring to try to scare Americans.
Well, what I would tell you, no, not to scare, to remind. And I don't know that for sure. I'm sending out that proposition because you guys do cover terror attacks. I mean, they're gruesome, they're horrible, and American people need to know. But as you do these, and again, they're not greatest hits, they're horrible hits of what's happened from terrorism. It does again remind America what's at stake here. And when you say on your network or others that that there's no cause for concern, that we don't need to adequately vet folks that come in from these countries, these 7 countries that are known hotbeds for terrorism, I think most Americans go, well, hold on a second.
But who's saying we don't need to, hold on. Who's saying we don't
ahead.
need to adequately vet people coming in from other countries? Who's saying that?
Well, to adequately vet, and Mr. Trump would say, and this was a main theme of his campaign, that we need to adequately vet people who are coming into the country. Now, you might say,
one second here. Refugees have spent 2 years being vetted. They're vetted by a host of agencies, from the UN to the Department of Homeland Security. They have biometric fingerprinting. They have interviews. So what part isn't being adequately vetted?
So 2 years. What's your concern then to say, let's take a 90-day pause? Let's pause for 90 days and let the new administration actually analyze the vetting system and make sure that the people who are coming in are here to live the American dream. And by the way, it's this president's responsibility, it's this Congress's responsibility to make sure we keep our people safe.
Yeah, sure. And what are we doing
right?
In, but what part of that vetting are we not doing right now?
Well, this is for the administration to determine. That's why they want to take a pause and say, let's fully revamp and look at how we're vetting folks. And again, there's this conversation about, is it a ban or is it a pause? If you look at the executive order, it's a 90-day to 120-day pause to analyze whether we are doing this correctly.
Sure.
It's not a lifetime ban. It's not a 10-year ban. It's 90 days to 120 days. This is simple, common sense stuff.
Yeah, not for Syrian refugees.
Well, right, and so until in Syria they figure out this conflict and this civil war and this hotbed for terrorism, we're going to have a longer-term ban in Syria. You're right. So the 6 other countries are a 90 to 60-day review.
Yeah, but I mean, arguably the refugees in Syria, the women and children there, who we see from all of our reporting. Luckily, we have CNN correspondents who are brave enough to go there and report that they are under siege and being killed and on the front lines. So why can't they come in?
Well, I think the longer-term ban, now I'm speculating on the administration, they might think you need a longer time period to adequately vet the folks in Syria, because you don't have a government, you don't have a paper trail. It takes far longer to actually make sure the people that you're bringing in are people who, again, are true refugees. We've heard from the terrorists themselves that they're going to try to infiltrate our refugee program, and that's going to come from the epicenter of ISIS, which is in Syria. And so we should have a little greater pause about those who come in from these countries. And I want to be very clear with you, Allison. I have a warm heart and open hands to those true refugees who are out there living in hell in these countries.
So,
as you mentioned, women and children.
So how does banning them indefinitely help them?
Well, I don't know that it will end up being indefinitely. I think it's going to end up being longer than that 90 to 120 days. Yeah. But I think the administration is recognizing that it's going to take a little longer time to figure out how do we make sure we're bringing in the right folks from Syria and not getting infiltrated from ISIS. And again, I think it's just more than that 120-day threshold.
Congressman, look, what I hear you saying is that Americans should be worried. Americans should be very worried about terrorism around the globe. Now, you know that more Americans are killed by lightning strikes every year than by terrorism. So how much do you want Americans to worry about terrorism here?
Well, I would just tell you, if you go to the nightclub, the gay nightclub in Orlando, and talk about what this means to that community, and you want to compare that terror attack to lightning, Allison, or you want to go to Boston for the bombing, and talk to those in Boston who were bombed by radical Islamic terrorists and say, you want to compare that to lightning? I challenge you to have that conversation. Because
yeah, we did go
lightning,
there.
Lightning may be random, but this is purposeful. It's death, and if the government could prevent lightning, you know what, from killing people, we would.
Yeah.
But if we can prevent terror attacks, and we can, we should.
Congressman, I did go to the Pulse nightclub. I did spend days there.
Yeah.
I did interview dozens of people who were friends of those killed and people who were inside who were still struggling with the emotional scars.
And they would not want you to compare that to lightning, Allison, because these are two very, very different. Or if you go to Nice,
very strongly,
or you go to Belgium, or to Paris.
I did, Congressman. I went to all of those places. And let me tell you what they told me. They did not want people to feel more divided. They wanted love after that. They felt that love was the answer. These are quotes, I'm telling you. They felt that the only way to bring people together was through love, not by pointing to people about who are the enemy. And so don't you, as a leader, need to explain to people whether or not the fear is valid.
Listen to me. In that nightclub, and at the Boston bombing, and in Nice, before that truck mowed down 80-some people, love didn't quell the hearts of these radical people. Love couldn't do that. And so we have to look and say, what is motivating these folks who are taking up arms and trucks and knives and killing innocents? And so, again, what's wrong with a pause? I think we're having a pause for 90 days. Why is that so radical? Why is that so extreme that we can't say, Mr. Trump, you talked about this on the campaign. You're going to take a 90 to 120-day pause. Good on you, Mr. Trump. If you want to analyze the vetting system that's taken place for 2 years, we'll give you another 90 days. That's not extreme. That's not radical. If you think you can keep us safe, if you can prevent another Boston or San Bernardino or Orlando, you know what, you're the new president, I'm going to give you that space to do that. Why can't we as a country come together and as networks come together, give the guy a break, let him protect us, give him a shot.
Congressman, why isn't the president talking about the white terrorist who mowed down 6 Muslims who were praying at their mosque?
Yeah, I don't know. But I would just tell you, there is a difference. Again, death and murder on both sides is wrong. But if you want to take the dozens of scenarios where ISIS-inspired attacks have taken innocents, and you give me one example of what's happened, I think that was in Canada, I'm going to condemn them all. But again, you don't have a group like ISIS or Al-Qaeda that's inspiring people around the world to take up arms and kill innocents. That was a one-off. That was a one-off, Allison.
Hold on a second.
And you have a movement on the other side.
Hold on a second, Congressman.
Bring it on, Allison.
You don't think there are white extremists? You don't remember Oklahoma City? You don't think that this guy who was involved in the mosque shooting said that he was inspired by things that he read online?
So you give me 2 examples, right? And in recent time, we're going to talk about the one example. And there is radicals all over the world and here in America now that'll take up arms and do bad things. But if you want to compare this one person in the last 10 years that you can give me an example of, Oklahoma was, what, 20 years ago, the Oklahoma, that's different than this whole movement that's taken place through ISIS that's inspired attacks. I mean, are you going to compare the one attack up in Canada to all the death and destruction in Europe from refugees or the attacks in the United States of America?
How about the Charleston church shooting?
But here's what
he was an extremist. He was a white extremist.
Yeah, he was. Okay.
How about that? That doesn't matter?
No, it does matter. It does matter. Look at the good things that came from it. Nikki Haley took down the Confederate flag. That was great. But you want to say, I can give you a couple examples. There's no constant thread that goes through these attacks. And you have radical Islamic terrorists and ISIS that are driving the attacks. And if you want to compare those two, maybe you can throw another one. I mean, look at Gabby Giffords. Look at Gabby Giffords, the Marxist who took her life. a leftist guy, and now you see violence and terror in the streets all across America, burning and beating people with Donald Trump hats. The violence you have to look at. You're trying to use some examples of the right. So where do we go? The left. Wait, hold on a second. The left has to say violence is wrong. As you brought up in San Bernardino, why do we look at Berkeley, where people get beat? Thank you. People that get beat up for wearing a Donald Trump hat, Make America Great Again hat again, or they get kicked, and stores get vandalized, and they burn and they beat. Where does the left and CNN and MSNBC stand up and go, you know what, this is wrong? If we're going to have peace in our hearts,
and
we're going to inspire the
Muslims
left.
Are attacked as well, and when swastikas are spray painted onto buildings. We've been talking about all of it. Why are you using isolated? Why do you think that when it's a white terrorist, it's an isolated incident?
So what I'm saying is, you have a cell, a heart, a beat of ISIS that's inspiring people around the world. And do you deny that? That's going to Europe and come to America, whether it's lone wolves. And so what's the heartbeat of the attack that you referenced in the mosque, or what happened in Charleston?
Extremism,
is there a common theme that
hatred,
runs? Okay, so
white supremacy.
Can we vet that? How should we vet that to keep ourselves safe? I'll join you in that effort. What do we do?
Do you not think it was white supremacy? This is what the shooters said it was.
Yeah, it's horrible. So what should we do? I mean, I'll join you. What do we do on the white supremacy front to make sure we don't have another attack like Charleston? I am with you on that, Allison.
Speak out about it, crack down on it, talk about it as extreme violence as much as we talk about all of the other terrorism that you call radical Islamic terrorism.
So let's crack down on ISIS. Let's crack down on the 7 terror countries that are riddled with terrorists, and give Donald Trump 90 days to 120 days, give him a pause to make sure he can keep us safe. Because you know what? If we could have vetted that guy who went into the mosque in Canada, or the guy that went into the church in Charleston and kept them from those deaths, wouldn't we do that? Wouldn't we take that step together? So if we would try to prevent those attacks in America from the 2 examples you gave me, why wouldn't we, if we can protect America from people who might come in to do us harm, why wouldn't we do that? The argument is the same on both sides.
Yeah, the only problem with your argument is that there is no terror attack that a refugee, no deadly terror attack that a refugee has been responsible for.
But there have been in Europe, and many in Europe.
Right, but not here.
But again, this is a pause, Allison. So why not take a pause? Why not learn from Europe and say we can take a pause, we can review, we can analyze, and then we can bring those people in who are truly victims and want to come in and need a refugee status. They need a new home. I'm with you on that front.
Okay. Congressman Sean Duffy, thank you very much for the debate.